The first thing my coworker ever asked me was what I wanted written on my death paperwork. He said it so casually, too, like he was asking if I took cream in my coffee. Everyone's got to have a preference, he told me, tapping the manila folder on my desk. You'd be surprised how many people don't think about that part. I laughed because what else do you do when the only other guy on your new night shift asks something like that before you've even logged in for the first time? I thought it was a joke. I don't think that anymore. My name is Daniel, but everyone calls me Dan. I'm 32 from Indiana originally, and for about 6 months of my life, I worked the overnight shift at a medical billing company on the outskirts of Milwaukee, Wisconsin. The place was called Careline Solutions. If you live in the Midwest, you've probably driven past buildings like it 1,000 times and never really seen them. Low, 2-story blocks of tinted glass and brick with a half-empty parking lot and a faded sign by the road. I took the job after my divorce, after the layoff, after I'd burned through most of my savings, convincing myself I'd land something better soon. When you're in that kind of free fall, steady paycheck and health insurance starts sounding like salvation, even if it comes with a badge and a headset and fluorescent lights at 3 in the morning. Careline processed billing for hospitals and clinics and all over the region. Night shift was when the queues got cleared and the insurance companies got hounded and the errors got fixed so the hospital administrators could pretend everything was smooth in the morning. I worked 4/10s, 9:30 p.m. to 7:30 a.m. Tuesday through Friday. The HR lady, Martha, told me during my orientation that night people are a special breed and laughed like that was a compliment. The office was on the 2nd floor. During the day, it was full of people in polos and cardigans staring at monitors. At night, it was thinner. By 10 o'clock, it was just a handful of us in one big open cubicle farm, the glow of screens making everyone look washed out and sick. The guy who asked about my death paperwork sat in the cubicle across from mine. His name was Joel. He was older than me, mid-40s maybe, thinning brown hair, the start of a paunch, the kind of permanent 5 o'clock shadow you get when you've never had a good night's sleep in years. His eyes were the strangest thing about him. Not the color, they were plain, washed-out blue, but the way they seemed to know you before you said a word. He wore the same uniform every night, button-down shirt, dark slacks, battered black shoes. His badge dangled from a retractable cord he clipped meticulously to the exact same spot on his pocket, dead center, like it mattered. On my first night, Martha walked me up, rattled off some policies about break schedules and login protocols, and then waved toward Joel's cube. "Oh, good. Joel's in," she said. "He's our rock on nights. Been here since before I started. If you have any questions, just ask him. He knows where all the bodies are buried." She laughed at her own joke. Joel smiled up at her. This flat but polite little stretch of his mouth. "I don't bury them," he said. "I just file the paperwork." I thought it was some corporate gallows humor thing. I didn't get it yet. After Martha left, he stood up and leaned on the partition between our cubes, looking down at me like a foreman checking over the new guy. "Daniel, right?" he said. "Dan," I corrected automatically. "Nice to meet you." "Night shift billing associate," he said, like he was reading from something only he could see. "Started today. Transferred from Evansville, Indiana. Recent divorce. No dependents." It took me a second to realize I hadn't told him any of that. "Yeah," I said, masking my discomfort with a chuckle. "You memorize everyone's file or something?" "It's good to know who you'll be sitting in the dark with," he replied. "Besides, I like patterns." He tapped the manila folder he'd dropped onto my desk. "Speaking of," he said, "this is your onboarding packet. And this," he separated out a thinner sheaf of papers with a practiced hand, "is your separation packet." "My what?" "If you ever quit," he said, "or get fired, or, have a bad day on the freeway." He said it matter-of-factly, like listing menu options. He flipped the packet open and showed me the first page. It was a standard-looking HR document. Careline letterhead, tiny print, lines for signatures. At the end there, he said, tapping the bottom, it'll say something like resigned or terminated or deceased. Our system likes tidy categories. How it's worded is up to you. I stared at him. "You want me to decide that now?" "Everyone thinks they'll have time later," he said. "They don't. People go from, I should really think about getting out of here, to align in the system faster than they believe possible. He shrugged. Better to pick your words when you're still whole enough to care. He was messing with me. He had to be. I forced a laugh. I'll get back to you on that, I said. He studied me for a second, then slid the packet back into the folder. You're a slow burner, he said. That's okay, we've got time. Then he dropped back into his chair and started typing, the sound of his keys folding neatly into the hum of the building. That was my introduction to Joel. I wish I'd listened a little closer. The first month, nothing really felt like horror. It just felt off. Night shift in a big, mostly empty office is weird no matter what. The fluorescent lights buzz constantly. The air coming out of the vents is just a little too cool, no matter how you fiddle with the thermostat. Outside the windows, it's black glass, sometimes reflecting your own pale face back at you if you turn your head at the wrong moment. There were 6 of us on nights, me, Joel, a woman named Brianna who sat 2 pods down, a guy named Malik who handled escalated cases, our supervisor Rand, and a quiet older woman named Petra who came in at midnight to work denials. In theory, Rand was in charge. In practice, everyone went to Joel. He'd been there longer than anyone. People said he'd been at Careline when it was still a different company, before they restructured. He knew every system, every workaround, every unwritten rule. He knew which insurance companies would cave if you pushed hard enough, and which ones would punish you by losing your claims for months. He knew exactly when the second-floor vending machine would choose to eat your dollar and give you nothing. And he knew things about people he shouldn't. On my 3rd night, during a lull around 2 in the morning, he leaned over the partition again. How's your son? He asked like we were mid-conversation. I blinked up at him. I don't have a son. You will, he said, eyes unfocused for a second, if you stay at Dayside Jobs. I must have looked as unsettled as I felt, because he smiled and added, kidding. You're easy to read, that's all. You've got the I'd do anything to not go back to where I was look. It's common up here. I looked back at my screen instead of arguing. Nights bled together. You stop measuring time by the clock and start measuring it by what breaks when. One night, the system that connected us to the clearinghouses went down, and we spent 4 hours manually logging claims in a spreadsheet while Rand cursed quietly in his glass-walled office. Another time, a storm rolled in off the lake and knocked the power out for 13 seconds. The emergency lights kicked on, red and sickly, and for those 13 seconds, even the vents stopped humming. That silence was the loudest thing I had ever heard. When the power came back, Joel was still typing, like nothing had changed. I hadn't even heard his breathing hitch. What did you do before this? I asked him once, partly just to fill the quiet, partly because it struck me that I didn't know anything about him that didn't involve Careline. He shrugged without looking up. Same thing, he said. Different logos on the badge. Different names on the doors. It's all the same work underneath. That's not what I meant, I said. I mean like before this life, before insurance. He paused just for a beat. I don't remember, he said, and went back to typing. He said it with the tone of someone stating a fact, not someone being evasive. That somehow made it worse. It was Brianna who made me realize something was really wrong. She was maybe 23, nursing student, worked nights with us, and then did classes in the afternoon. I don't know when she slept. We'd talk sometimes near the coffee machine on our 10-minute breaks. She always looked tired, but not in the bone-deep way Joel did. More in the, this is a temporary grind on my way to something better way. One night around 3:30, she caught me by the break room sink, rinsing out my mug. You ever get that feel like this place is, sticky? She asked. Sticky, I repeated. She made a face, searching for the word. Like the longer you're here, the harder it is to imagine not being here, she said. Like the idea of quitting or changing shifts feels bigger than it should. I thought about it. I just assumed that was the health insurance, I said. She huffed a tired little laugh. Yeah, maybe. She hesitated, then leaned in a little. I put in for a transfer, she said, voice dropping. To days, over an intake. They offered it to me 3 months ago, and I said no because I liked night shift. Can you imagine? She shook her head at herself. I love you guys, but I'm done watching the sun rise through tinted glass. That's great, I said honestly. When do you move? I've got to sign the paperwork with HR, she said, but I wanted to, I don't know, say it out loud first before I change my mind again. Joel walked into the break room right then, like the word paperwork was his name. You changing teams, Bri? He asked, going straight to the coffee machine. She jumped. Jesus, Joel, you move like a cat. I move like someone who's been in the same halls for a very long time, he said. We feel different under your feet after a while. She shook her head. Yeah, well, I'm done wearing out your carpet, she said. I'm going over today's intake. Joel smiled without looking at her. He opened the little fridge, pulled out one of those canned cold brews, and set it on the counter. Congratulations, he said. Make sure you sign everything Martha gives you. Don't leave any fields blank. The system doesn't like unfinished business. I know how to sign a transfer form, she said, rolling her eyes. I've only watched you push them at people for 2 years. She grabbed her drink and headed for the door. Hey, Bree, he said as she reached it. She glanced back. Don't change your mind, he said. His tone was wrong, not joking, not friendly, flat, heavy. She didn't answer. She just left. The next night, she wasn't there. Sometimes people called off. Life happened. I figured maybe she had orientation for her new role, or overslept, or decided to take a night to adjust her schedule. Around 1 a.m, Malik wandered past my cube with a weird look on his face. You hear about Bri? He asked. My stomach dropped. What happened? He rubbed the back of his neck. Rand said she had some kind of seizure at her desk in orientation today, he said. Just dropped. They took her out in an ambulance. He says HR told him she's not coming back. Not coming back like for a while, I asked. Or, he glanced over his shoulder. Joel sat at his desk, eyes on his screen. Like ever, Malik said quietly. He said Martha used the word resigned, like that, for a seizure. I looked over at Joel too. He was humming under his breath, a low, tuneless sound perfectly blending with the vents. The day after that, Bree's nameplate was gone from her cubicle. The chair sat pushed in, headset coiled neatly, like she'd never been there. If you hadn't known her, you would think it was just an empty station waiting for a new hire. Her login disappeared from the queue lists. Her name vanished from the team chat. I went to look at the schedule board in the break room, and someone had peeled off the little magnet with her name and thrown it away. If I hadn't had that conversation in the break room with her, if I hadn't seen the way Joel watched her when she said transfer, I might have let it go. Instead, the things she'd said started repeating in my head. Sticky. A week later, Petra came in late, red-eyed, and left at midnight without saying a word. The next day, Rand called us together and told us Petra had decided she couldn't keep working nights and had moved on. Nobody used the word fired. Nobody used the word quit. It was always moved on, like the company was talking about the dead without wanting to say they were dead. I started looking around more. On the wall near the elevators, there was a framed Employee of the Month display. 12 slots, 8 had current photos. The other 4 were empty. I asked HR about it once when I was leaving early for a dentist appointment. We just haven't updated it, Martha said. We had some changes, high turnover up there. Night shift is hard on people. She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. On my way back up in the elevator, alone, I watched the floor numbers crawl by. The elevator was mirrored stainless steel inside. When I looked straight ahead, I saw my own pale reflection and the ghost of the office behind me. When I looked down, at the seam between the doors, just where they met, for half a second there was another pair of feet behind mine. Worn black shoes with scuffed toes. By the time I jerked my head up, the reflection was normal again. Just me. I told myself it was lack of sleep, an optical illusion, whatever. Then about 6 weeks in, I saw Joel's binder. Most of us kept our stuff on top of the filing drawers under our desks. Headphones, snacks, the pile of pens you never actually use. Joel kept his underlock and key, literally. One night around 2, he went to the bathroom and left his drawer ajar for the first time in all the nights I'd watched him. He must have been distracted because he was religious about that lock. I don't know what made me look down. Boredom, probably. or the low-grade paranoia that had been building in me since Bry. In the dim glow from his screensaver, I could see the edge of a black 3-ring binder in the drawer, thick with papers. A little printed label on the spine read, "Departures." The word hit me like a cold hand on the back of my neck. Departures. I should have minded my business. I didn't. I slid out of my chair and knelt like I dropped something. My hand shook as I eased his drawer open just enough to pull the binder out. It was heavy, one of those 4-inch ones. The cover was worn smooth around the edges like it had been opened and closed 1,000 times. Inside were clear plastic sleeves, front and back, each holding a completed HR separation form. Termination packets. I flipped through. Each sleeve held a name I recognized from some story. The guy Rand had mentioned once, who just stopped showing up and had never filed for unemployment. The woman whose husband swore she was looking for another job, but never took her stuff home from her desk. A kid Malik talked about once who was here and then wasn't, like a file being archived. I found Breeze. Her form was dated the day of her orientation. Reason for separation: medical non-return. Status: resigned. At the bottom was a signature that looked vaguely like hers except wrong, like someone had traced it from memory. In the margin, in tiny, neat writing that definitely wasn't HR standard, someone had added, "Asset retained, non-external." There was no line on the form for that note. It had been squeezed in between sections, like whoever wrote it couldn't help themselves. My stomach flipped. Behind her page was Petra's. Reason for separation: personal. Status: resigned. Same neat little marginal note: asset retained, non-external. I turned more pages. Every one of them had that same note in the same handwriting: assets retained. I flipped faster, hands sweating. The pages made a soft, sick, whispering sound. I was so focused, I didn't hear Joel come back. "What are you doing?" His voice came from just behind my left ear. I dropped the binder. It hit the carpet with a dull thud. Half the pages slammed shut, a couple of sleeves sliding free inside. I saw the label," I stammered, backing up. "I thought it was team stats or something. I didn't mean..." He bent very slowly and picked the binder up. When he straightened, his face was calm, too calm. "You shouldn't go through other people's paperwork, Dan," he said. "That's how data breaches happen." I swallowed. "What is it?" I asked, nodding at the binder. "Why do you have all those?" He patted the cover. "This," he said, "this is just housekeeping. We work at a company. People leave. Someone has to keep track of who's been properly filed." He looked me dead in the eyes. "We're big on retention here." He slid the binder back into his drawer and locked it with a small silver key, turning it twice. I went back to my chair like my strings had been cut. The rest of the night, every time I glanced up, he was already looking at me. It got worse after that. Once you suspect something's wrong, you start seeing problems everywhere. You also start noticing how much work the world does to make you doubt your own senses. I found a thread on our local subreddit one afternoon when I was too wired to sleep. Someone asked, "Anyone else worked at Caroline? Why does everyone leave so fast?" Most of the replies were boring, complaints about call quotas and shift differentials and passive-aggressive emails. One comment, buried halfway down, said, "Don't take nights. The guy with the binder doesn't like it when you leave. And if he likes you, he keeps you. If you're reading this and you're already on nights, don't sign anything he gives you. Say you lost it. Throw it away. Pretend you're stupid. It's the only way you get out clean." The account that posted it had been deleted. I didn't sleep at all that day. The next night, I watched Joel Sharper. He was always the first one there when I arrived, and the last one sitting when I left. I never saw him clock in. I never saw him leave. I started testing it. On my breaks, I'd take the long way around the floor, find some angle where I could see his station without him seeing me. One time I left for the bathroom with him at his desk, came back from a detour past the break room, and he was gone. His monitors glowed. His chair was warm when I put my hand near it. There was a half-drunk coffee on his desk, the surface still rippling slightly like he'd just set it down. But he was nowhere on the floor. I checked the hallway, the bathroom, the little supply closet where we grabbed paper and pens. Nothing. When I sat back down at my own desk, trying to decide if I was losing my mind, he spoke up from behind his screens. "You're on edge," he said. "You weren't like this when you started." I stared at him. "I didn't notice as much when I started," I said. He smiled. "That's what it wants," he said. "That's why this kind of job is perfect. Repetition, fluorescence, the same chair, the same route from the parking lot to the badge reader to the desk. It sands your thoughts down until they fit." "What it?" I asked. He tilted his head, like he was listening to something in the walls. "You ever notice how your badge feels heavier when you think about leaving?" he asked instead of answering. "Like it doesn't want to be put down." We stared at each other. "I'm not quitting," I lied. His smile widened a fraction. "I know," he said. "You're not ready yet, but the paperwork's already in motion. That's the trick. The moment you touch a keyboard here, the system starts a file. Every keystroke, every login. By the time you realize you want out, most of you is already in." "What does that even mean?" I asked. "It's just billing software." "You still think Atlas is just software?" he said softly. I'd seen that name, Atlas, in passing before. It was the portal HR used for timekeeping and performance. It was the system behind our login screens. I'd never thought of it as anything but a tool. Joel spun in his chair and woke his monitor with a tap. The Atlas login screen glowed on the left. "Atlas is older than Caroline," he said. "Older than this building. It was here when this was a collections office. It was here when it was a call center for some telecom. They rebrand it, update the UI, slap a different logo on the portal, but the bones are the same." He glanced at me over his shoulder. "It keeps records," he said. "It hates a blank field. It hates a missing checkbox. And over the years, it got very good at keeping people in its system." I stared at the blue and white login screen. "You're saying the software is haunted," I said. "I'm saying it learned," he replied. "If a company's profit depends on retention, and all their tools are built to support that, it's not surprising when something in the tool starts wanting the same thing." "That's insane," I muttered. He shrugged. "So is spending most of your waking life making sure insurance company must pay $22 on a $50,000 surgery. But here we are." He turned back to his work. "You'll understand better in a few days," he added. He was wrong. I understood that night. It was around 4 a.m, that dead zone where your body starts to revolt and the sky outside is still pitch black, and even the fluorescent lights seem to be dimmer out of sheer sympathy. Rand went home at 2, as he often did, leaving us with a Slack message. "Ping me if the whole building catches fire." Malik had his headphones on, nodding slowly to whatever he was listening to as his fingers flew over the keyboard. The floor was quiet except for keys, the low rumble of the vents, and Joel's hum under it all. A system update notification popped up on my screen. Atlas admin portal, maintenance mode. Some features may be limited. For a minute or two, nothing happened. Then, without me clicking anything, a new window opened. It shouldn't have. I didn't have that kind of access. But there it was, a dashboard I'd never seen before, full of data. Employee status internal. Retained assets, 48. Pending separations, 3. There was a list of names under each category. I scrolled. Under retained assets, I saw names I recognized. People Rand had mentioned once and then never again. The kid in Idle Gossip who just disappeared. Brianna. Her name was there, next to a code. NECL08. Status, non-external. My hands went numb. Under pending separations, 3 names blinked. Malik Johnson. Scheduled 0312, status, draft. Peter Randall, random, scheduled on 0319, status, draft. Daniel K. Harris, scheduled 0315, status, finalized. That was 3 days from then. I clicked my own name with a kind of detached horror, like poking a bruise. A profile opened. It had everything. My hire date, my address, my emergency contact. But there were fields I'd never seen on any HR form. Intangible allocation, 87%, external entanglements, low. Retention risk, high override, Joel admin. At the very bottom, in a section labeled separation details, a single line waited, Status text to display. The blank line pulsed faintly, like a cursor. My breath came fast and shallow. The walls felt closer than they had a minute ago. I heard the soft scrape of a chair behind me. Don't touch that. Joel's hand dropped onto the back of my chair, right behind my neck. His palm was warm, too warm. The heat bled through the chair into my skin, making me want to flinch. How did you get into that screen? He asked. I didn't, I said. It just opened. It's not it, he said. It's we. You've been filing yourself since you got here. All those logins, all those passwords. Every time you clicked, I agree without reading. He leaned down, close enough that I could smell the stale coffee on his breath. They gave you the illusion of choice, he whispered. But the system always fills in the blanks in the end. On my monitor, the status line waiting for my death wording flickered. Without my hand on the mouse, letters began to appear. RESIGNED. The word typed itself, slow and deliberate. I grabbed the mouse. The cursor fought me. For a second, it felt like someone's hand was on top of mine, pushing back from inside the plastic. I slammed my palm on the escape key. The screen blinked. The portal closed. The normal dashboard popped back up. Claim queues, work lists, everything suddenly too small, too human. I twisted around in my chair to face Joel. What the hell is going on? I said. He watched me, head slightly tilted. You saw your date, he said. You weren't supposed to see that until I brought you the papers. I'm not signing anything, I said. My voice shook, but I meant it. His eyes softened in a way I hated. Everyone says that, he said. At first, they think they're different, stronger, that they'll hold out. He walked back to his cubicle and sat down slowly. The problem is, he said, the longer you're here, the less of you there is to fight. You think this job doesn't take pieces out of you? You think those pieces just vanish? He tapped his desk. It eats them, he said simply. Atlas, Caroline, the whole tangle of login screens and ID numbers and forms. It chews people up in tiny paperwork-sized bites. Easier to digest that way. Malik pulled off one ear cup and glanced over. You two good? He asked. We're fine, Joel said. Dan just accidentally clicked into an admin screen. It happens. Malik shrugged and went back to his queue. My heart hammered. Why do you care? I asked Joel, my voice low. If this system wants to keep us, why does it need you? He smiled slightly. Someone has to shepherd the process, he said. Make sure the forms are filled, the boxes checked. It can't just take. It needs consent. A scribble here, a signature there, a click on I agree. That's the rule. Who made the rule? I asked. He looked up like he could see through the ceiling to the floors above. Someone in a corner office a long time ago, he said. Someone who thought, we can't afford to lose people. We need something that helps us keep them. And then they told it to build it. Or they bought it from someone who already had. Doesn't matter. It's been upgraded and rebranded so many times nobody remembers where the original came from. He looked back at me. All that matters now is who it has. I thought of the names in the retained assets list. What happens if I don't sign? I whispered. He considered that. Then it uses other exits, Juanita said. Seizures, car accidents, sleep apnea. People quit breathing in their recliners and nobody can explain why. His eyes drifted to the hallway. And even then, he added, there's paperwork. I stood up so fast my chair rolled back and bumped the cabinet behind me. I'm not staying, I said. Not 3 days, not 3 hours. I'm done. He watched me, expression unreadable. You can walk out, he said. You've still got enough of you left to make that choice. But there's a swing. He tapped his chest, a dull thump against bone. It doesn't like to let go of what it thought it owned. I didn't care. I grabbed my bag, pulled my badge from my belt, and tossed it on my desk. Malik looked up again. You good? He repeated. I'm sick, I said, which was true enough. Tell Rand I'll email him. Sure, man. As I walked toward the elevator, I felt Joel's eyes on my back. The hair on my arms stood up. The elevator was waiting. The doors slid open with a soft ding. Inside, the mirror showed me my own drawn face and hunched shoulders. For a second, just over my left shoulder, I thought I saw someone else. A man in a button-down shirt with a badge clipped dead center to his pocket. The doors closed, cutting the reflection off. The ride down took forever. I watched the floor indicator jump from 2 to 1. The car jolted just slightly. The light between 2 and 1 blinked. For a heartbeat, it read 0. I gripped the rail so tight, my knuckles went white. Then the doors opened to the lobby like nothing had happened. The night guard, Carlos, glanced up from his phone. "Heading out early?" he asked. "Yeah," I said, trying to sound normal. "Sick." He gave a sympathetic wince. "Get some sleep, man. You've been looking like death for weeks." Outside, the parking lot was mostly empty. My breath steamed in the cold. When I got in my car, my hands shook so badly it took me 3 tries to get the key in the ignition. I drove home in a daze and collapsed on my couch without even taking my shoes off. I thought if I just didn't go back, that would be it. I'd send a resignation email, block their number, and warn anyone who'd listen online to stay away from Caroline nights. I underestimated how far retention can reach. I woke up around noon to the sound of my phone ringing. The caller ID said Caroline HR. For a second, I almost didn't answer. Then I did. "Hello? Dan, it's Martha," came the overly bright voice. "Carlos said you left sick last night. I'm so sorry you're not feeling well. I just wanted to touch base about your separation paperwork." "My what?" I asked. "Well, I got a notification from Atlas this morning that your employee status changed to separation pending," she said. "It auto-generates a task for me to finalize your file." "I didn't submit anything," I said. "I just left. I was going to email Rand." "Oh," she said like that didn't matter. "Well, the system sometimes anticipates based on patterns." "No worries. I've got your packet here. It looks like Joel already prepped it. He's such a help with these things. Don't finalize anything," I cut in. "I'm not dead. I quit." There was a pause. "Of course you're not dead," she said with a little laugh that sounded strained. "Nobody said you were dead." I remembered the blank line on the screen. Status text to display. "What does it say?" I asked. "What does what say?" "My status. In Atlas." She hesitated. There was a faint clicking as she typed. "Oh, that's funny," she said. "It just says resigned in the status field, but the date is... That can't be right." Something cold settled in my gut. "What date?" 3 days from now," she said. "Huh, must be a glitch. I'll fix it." "Don't touch it," I said. "Just don't do anything to it. Please." Another pause. "Are you sure you're feeling okay?" she asked. "You sound off. We do have an employee assistance program if you want to talk to someone. Joel actually helps onboard folks to it." "I'm not talking to Joel about anything," I snapped. Silence. "I'm sorry things didn't work out," she said eventually. I'll leave your file for now. We can revisit it." We hung up. I stared at the ceiling for a long time. I should have blocked their number then. Instead, out of morbid curiosity or stupidity, I opened my laptop and tried to log into Atlas one more time. My credentials still worked. The main screen looked normal. But you know how your brain starts hunting for what you're afraid of? My eyes went straight to the tiny admin link at the bottom I'd never noticed before. I clicked. For a second, nothing happened. Then the same internal status dashboard I'd seen at my desk in the middle of the night flickered up. Retained assets, pending separations. My name was still under pending. Status, finalized. Effective 03/15. There was a button beneath it, gray and unclickable, that said, Cancel Separation. A message popped up when I hovered over it. Insufficient permissions. Contact Atlas admin. Joel. Something in me nodded then. Not fear, not exactly. Anger. I backed out of that screen, clicked my own profile instead. There was a field at the top I'd half noticed before. Employment status. It was set to active. I clicked the drop-down. The options were active on leave, resigned, terminated, never hired. It was stupid, childish, desperate. But I clicked never hired. A warning box popped up. Changing this field will remove associated records. Continue. I clicked with yes. For a moment, the little loading wheel spun. Then my entire profile vanished. The screen went blank except for a single line in the center. Record not found. My stomach lurched. I typed my name into the search bar. Nothing. I went back to the internal dashboard. Under pending separations, there were now only 2 names: Malik Johnson, scheduled 0312, status draft. Peter Randall, scheduled 0319, status draft. Mine was gone. I sat there, laptop humming, feeling like I'd just done something unforgivable and holy at the same time. My phone buzzed in my hand. New text from an unknown number. "We don't like blanks," then another one immediately after. "You can't just walk out and pretend we never touched you." The number had no name, but I didn't need one. I could hear the hum under the words. I turned my phone off. My lights flickered. I don't mean they dimmed. I mean every bulb in my apartment went out at once, then flared back brighter than before. The fridge compressor kicked off, then on. The building vibrated just slightly, like there'd been a truck rumbling by outside. Except I lived on the 4th floor of a brick apartment on a quiet side street. There were no trucks. In the buzzing silence that followed, my laptop chimed. The Atlas session had timed out. When I tried to log back in, it said, "Invalid credentials." I closed it and backed away from the table like it might reach for me. That night, I dreamed of cubicles stretching on forever in every direction, neat rows of screens glowing blue. Everyone sitting at the desks had their back to me. When I walked between the rows, I recognized clothes, hair, the curve of a neck, Bree, Petra, people who'd mumbled hi in the break room and then vanished. Every one of their screens showed the same thing, a blank form with a single pulsing line waiting for status text. As I got closer, I realized none of them were touching their keyboards. Their hands lay flat on the desk, fingers splayed, as if glued there. The keys moved on their own, clicking, tapping, filling in field after field. I woke up at 5 in the morning, heart hammering, drenched in sweat. I didn't go back to sleep. 8, my phone rang again. I let it go to voicemail. A minute later, a notification popped up. Voicemail, Caroline HR. Against my better judgment, I listened. "Hi, Dan. It's Martha again," came the too cheerful voice. I just got off a very confusing call with Atlas support. They say they don't have an active record for you. It's like you were never hired. Super weird." There was a brittle little laugh. "Anyway, they're telling me I can't file your separation packet because there's technically nothing to separate. So, congratulations, I guess? You're a free man." She hesitated. "And, just between us," she added, voice dropping, "you might not want to put Caroline on your resume. The system's touchy right now." A door clicked somewhere in the background of the recording. A different voice murmured something I couldn't make out. "They're telling me Joel's file is corrupted too," she said, sounding further from the mic now. "But that can't be right. He's still..." The message cut off mid-sentence. The rest of the day, I waited for another call, another text, some sign that I hadn't actually slipped through a crack I wasn't supposed to see. Nothing came. I never went back to Caroline. I got a job delivering auto parts for a while, then a warehouse gig, then a remote data entry thing for a company based in Minnesota that only needed me during daylight hours. I started sleeping like a human being again. Mostly. But sometimes late afternoon when the sun is slanting in through the bushes and the room is that specific kind of dim where screens are brighter than any lamp. Sometimes my cursor will move on its own for a second. A checkbox will tick without me clicking it. A long, boring user agreement will scroll all the way to the bottom before I've read it. And every once in a while, when I'm filling out some online form for yet another job, there will be a field near the end I don't remember seeing before. Status text to display. It'll flicker once, then disappear when I blink. The last time it happened, on a portal for a temp agency, I thought of that other drop-down. Active, on leave, resigned, terminated, never hired. My hand hovered over the mouse. I closed the browser instead. I still drive past the Caroline building sometimes, on my way to the cheaper grocery store on the south side. From the highway, it looks like any other office. Brick, glass, cars in the lot. At night, there are a few lit windows on the second floor. One time at a red light, I caught myself counting the silhouettes moving in one of them. 1, 2, 3, 4. I blinked. There were 5. The fifth stood a little apart, hands at his sides, head tilted like he was listening to something only he could hear. For a moment, I thought I saw the faint outline of a binder clutched to his chest. Then the light turned green, and I had to move. I don't know what happened to Joel. If you Google him, you don't get much. A couple of old LinkedIn endorsements, a broken image where his profile picture should be. All I know is this: if you work nights in a place where people come and go and nobody seems to remember the ones who've moved on, pay attention to who handles the paperwork. If there's a guy with a binder who always seems to be there when someone quits, or gets fired, or has something bad happen to him, don't sign anything he gives you. Lose the forms, spill coffee on them, blame it. And if you ever see your own name in a system next to a date that hasn't happened yet, under a word you didn't choose, get out. Even if it means pretending you were never there. Because there are things in those systems that don't like blanks, and they don't like being told you were never theirs.